Okay, I'm going to show you what the different reports are available in RSS here. We have 2 reports at this time, and we can always run custom reports. First one I'm going to show you is the mechanic performance report. This is where we take a look at the mechanics' habits, their bias. We want to know what the guys are selling, what they're not selling, and give us a little insight onto how they're working. What I'm doing right now is I'm setting it up to take a look at my multi-point inspection. I've grabbed my technicians, brought them into the report. I'm looking at the multi-point for the period of July 1st through today. And if it's over 40% recommended, I want it in green. If it's 5% or less, in red. A lot of optional search parameters. I'm not going to go into those right now. Click View Report. I could export this to Excel as well. And that's how we do it in my shop, is we will do this report every 2 weeks for the previous 45 days. We're looking at a running average for the guys as we try to correct their behavior. The ultimate scenario would be that all of my guys could check out the same car and get the same recommendations. As you know, that's probably a dirty little secret in this industry, that most inspections are based on what the technician likes to do, and they never recommend what they don't like to do. That equals unneeded work being performed and missed work going out the door. So with this report, I'm going to try and correct that. I can see here my 3 technicians. Keith has done 54 inspections. His average car is a 2008 with 82,000 miles on it. He finds an average of 4 items per inspection, and he spends 6 minutes on his average inspection. This is the normal here, these 2 guys, Oscar and Keith. Jeremy is a little bit different. He likes to start the inspection long before he brings the car in. He logs into the inspection. This is the time it took the technician to open the inspection up, click off what they needed to click, and send it back to the service advisor. So take it with a grain of salt. What we're really looking for is their habits. What I usually jump right into, and the number one in all of the shops that I look at, is the brake fluid condition. This seems to be the one that is the most abused, the most oversold, and then I'll show you some undersold. What we're looking at here is Keith has recommended a brake fluid service 20% of the time. Oscar's at 38% of the time. Jeremy's at 41% of the time. Each shop will have different numbers that you want every different item to come in at. My shop, I recommend brake fluid service every 2 years. I see cars twice a year. That's every 4th visit. That would be 25% of the time. So as far as I'm concerned, my guys are right where I want them. Oscar might be a little bit high. Jeremy is my Eurotech. He's not seeing cars twice a year. He's seeing them 1.1 time or something. So he's recommending them a little bit more often because he doesn't see them as often. So I think my guys are right in line there. Another one that I key in on, I usually look through all of the fluids. Another one I key in on is air filter. When you see guys that have 0 on their air filters, you can pretty much guarantee their attitude is something like, I don't get paid to do air filters, so I'm not recommending them. And that's a cancerous, that just eats at all of the employees when you've got that kind of stuff going on. One of the things that I've noticed in my shop, and I had a meeting with my service manager yesterday, fuel filter. Keith hasn't recommended a fuel filter in, 55 cars. These guys are barely looking at them, so we need to up that. Those should be mileage-based intervals, so that tells me my guys aren't checking them. They're not looking at them. They're just rolling right by them. Keith has stopped recommending throttle service or induction service, whatever you want to call it in your shop. I call it a throttle cleaning. And Jeremy is pretty consistent, 12%. Oscar's okay. What we're looking for, again, is consistency across all of your techs to be about the same and within the margins that you want them at. That's what this one does. You can see I mentioned before that we sold $35,000 worth of spark plugs last year. That's because my guys are checking them and recommending them. Out of all of the recommendations in my inspections, we sell about 50% of the recommendations. So here you got 18, you got 23 spark plug jobs. So we sold about a dozen of those as maintenance just because we asked the guys to check them. I've got problems in my shop just like you do, like Keith here with no fuel filters. But for the most part, I think the guys are doing pretty good. Go into undercar. We're seeing some oil leaks. We're not seeing much in engine mounts. I can see Keith is pretty much just jumping over a lot of this stuff. So he comes in waves. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's bad. The idea, every 2 weeks, we run this report for the previous 45 days. We lay them down together. We find out whether the techs are doing better or worse since the last meeting. And the guys know that they're being judged on this and they're being held accountable for their recommendations. That's the mechanics recommendation report. I'm going to show you the RO completion report. The RO completion report is designed to show me the value of my inspections during a period of time based on technician or manager, whatever I want to look it up for. When we jumped in to doing the inspection, or when the service advisor was going in and setting the priorities, you saw where we could put in a price for items that were recommended, and we could also mark off what got sold. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking at July's numbers from my shop, all my mechanics. I only have one service manager, so just that one. And what I see down here at the bottom are my numbers. I did 99 inspections in July. We found $101,000 worth of work. We sold $48,000 of it, and we left $53,000 sitting on the table. So like I said, an average of about 50% on that. The big number on this is the $1,024.80. That tells me that the value of every single one of those 99 inspections averaged out at over $1,000 worth of work found. We sold almost $500 for every inspection. So that proves to you that if you're doing an inspection and you're doing it right, you're holding your technicians accountable for their recommendations, you're trying to work with your techs to keep them from missing certain things or overselling on others, that you can get extra money out of doing this, doing it properly. I can also narrow this down by technician. I can come in here and grab one technician and see what their numbers are. So I might find out that one technician's average RO or average find is $600 and another guy may find $1,200. We can also narrow it down if you've got several managers and you're working in teams. You can take a look at your teams by selecting your managers and technicians, putting together to see which managers sell for which mechanics. And that's all based on how they get along, whether they believe in the technician or not, whether the technician is over recommending and they're starting to take things off of the estimates, what have you. So you can put together some pretty powerful reports out of this. The other thing to look at here is on this missed opportunity, this should closely mimic what RO Writer is telling you is a missed opportunity. The reason that these should be about the same is if your service advisors are putting all of the recommendations into estimates and truly marking it down as declined, then these numbers should pretty much jive. If you find that these numbers are way off, then what you're seeing is a service advisor that maybe gets back an inspection sheet that says that the car needs rear brakes and a rack and pinion unit. They've made up in their own mind that the rack and pinion unit, the customer's not going to buy it, so they're not even going to put together an estimate for it. So when you start seeing these numbers be way off, start looking at it by service advisor, and you'll find that one advisor that is not recommending what the technicians asked for. So that's our RO completion report, completely customizable by date, mechanic, manager, etc., and the mechanics performance report. Those are the two reports. in RSS. Let me open this up for questions here real quick.